That's long enough. So we've got 23 people on the call. Great. Well, welcome to our September meeting for the Sutton Interim Radio Society. Welcome to anybody that's not been. We've got a few guests on as well, so you're welcome as well. Thank you for joining us. This is our 5th meeting now via Zoom, and I think it's gone pretty well so far. So touch wood, it will be okay tonight. Apologies, Martin in one of Marby couldn't make it tonight. He's job involved shifts, and tonight's a late shift for him, so he's not able to join us. And just so everyone is aware, we are recording this session, and this will go out on YouTube at some point in the future. And we may also use the audio as well for the ITQ podcast. So just so you're aware that that is the case. If you've got any questions, please put something in the chat window as usual, and we'll get you in at an appropriate time. So, probably aware tonight's meeting is we've got some guests tonight from SDRPlay. We've got John Hudson and Andy, both from SDRPlay, both co-founders, and they've got lots of interesting things to talk about. They've got some really nice products. So, John, I'm going to hand over to you because I think you're going to start off and introduce things. So let me just find your window a second.
Okay. Hello.
Just let me get you on. Oh, that's Andy. Sorry. It's all going wrong already. There we go, John. There you are. Over to you.
Hello, and very, very warm welcome to everyone tonight. As Chris says, I'm John Hudson, and you'll meet Andy in a minute. And we're really here to share with you the latest news and information about SDRPlay and our products. And obviously, it would be nice to be with you in person, but that wasn't to be. But this hopefully could be the next best thing, and we can potentially make it quite interactive and maybe do some demos later on. I'm going to start by just giving a little bit of history about the company, the products. But before I do that, I should just say, as soon as Chris, because I've met Chris at various events in the past, but when he invited us to come to the Sutton and Cheam Radio Society, I instantly had memories from the most famous ham radio person of all time, who came from East Cheam, and of course that was Tony Hancock. So I had a chuckle reminiscing about that particular individual, who I think on balance probably didn't do a lot for the reputation of radio amateurs, but certainly was a talking point many years ago when I became G4ABQ. So I'm the longest, well, in fact, I was the only radio amateur that joined SDRPlay. So more of that in a moment. I'm going to just run through some slides. I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you can see my screen okay. The company is actually 6 years old. We're an all-British company, based in the UK, registered in the UK, and in fact, the original chips were designed in the UK by Myrix, and the company is a joint venture with the chip company Myrix, who really pioneered SDR radio technology some 14 years ago. They got into it as cellular phones were starting to have more and more broadcast reception, long wave in the UK. Obviously, FM was popular. In Japan, they actually had HD, not HD, but terrestrial TV reception. So having a very good wideband receiver technology, A to D converters, was essential, and Myrix really got this going. And then as time went on, probably the demand for the cellular phone reduced. Some high-end computers still use the technology, but the hobbyists were seeing the fantastic things they could do with cheap dongles, and it was kind of a no-brainer really to try and apply this cool chip technology to create a wideband receiver that could go really from like long wave up to gigahertz, and that's what we did. And my own background, I was with Texas Instruments, I was with Bluetooth chip company CSR, But I was a radio ham, and I knew some of the guys at Mirix, and they were real technology pioneers of the chip technology needed, and the systems technology and hardware. And we came together, and I adopted very much the kind of marketing and technical side of the marketing and sales. And you'll see Andy in a minute, who's really the architect when it comes to the software. And as I say, we manufacture here in the UK, both in Peterborough and up in Hartlepool, 2 different subcontract manufacturers. So all the board assembly, the pick and place, the bake, the assembly into the boxes, the test, everything's done here in the UK. So I think there are probably still just 2 or 3 of you maybe who are still not so familiar with SDRs, but I don't want to sort of talk down to you. But if you're finding out about SDRs for the first time, what is an SDR? Well, it's a radio communication system where the components that have traditionally been implemented in hardware, so things like mixers and filters and amplifiers, they are all implemented in software on some kind of host computer. So I'm just going to show here the block diagram of our simplest product, the RSP1A, which is the sort of entry-level product. And over on the right-hand side, probably the crown jewels of this is the A to D converter, 14-bit analog to digital converter, which then interfaces over a USB cable to the host computer. But all those blocks in the middle, that's where a lot of the innovation has come, with quite complex filters across the whole spectrum from 1 kilohertz, essentially 0 megahertz, all the way to 2 gigahertz is the upper limit. These filters minimize the effects of unwanted mixing products caused by the fact that you've got such a wide open front end. And obviously the environment for listening is impacted a lot by strong interferers that can cause intermodulation and other problems. And so having specific broadcast band filters, unless you want to actually listen to those broadcast bands, we've got medium wave band, FM band, DAB band, where huge, hundreds of kilowatts transmitters may be locally causing problems with these open wideband SDRs. So that's really just a simplified view of the architecture. And if we just look at the 3 products that we have at the moment, we're going to look at the RSP1A, the DX, and then the RSP Duo. And everything's glued together with the SDR Uno software in terms of unlocking the full capabilities of the hardware. So the 1A, as indeed all of them, gives you 10 megahertz of visibility anywhere between 1 kilohertz and 2 gigahertz. And all of the RSPs provide basic capability using Uno. There's only a single antenna port here, 50 ohm input for the RSP1A. But some of the other software that's coming from third parties, like some very powerful spectrum analyzer software and kind of source blocks for GNU radio and Raspberry Pi images, are there for all of the RSPs. A lot of people start out, if you've already got a transceiver, with an SDR as a PAN adapter, and really if you're just using it as a PAN adapter initially, the RSP1A is fully capable of doing that. This is just a picture of GNU radio, which is a great way for understanding radio architectures and trying out new software, filters and other demodulators. It's very much a learning tool, and great for the younger generation really to start to play with radio. One of the nice side effects of our products is that we have calibrated power measurement capability. So you can actually use the devices as a field strength meter. There's a logging facility, and you can build up like a CSV file that you can analyze with Excel, do charting and so on. And this is great for the EMC people over at the RSGB. They do a lot of investigative work on sources of interference, and they find SDR Uno very good for that. I mentioned the spectrum analyzer function. This is totally separate from SDR Uno, and it just runs on all the RSPs and gives you the kind of traditional features you'd get on a piece of lab equipment. Again, the calibration is to within a dB or so, and it's there for free. So moving up, the big difference between the 1A and the DX is the multiple antenna ports, which starts to get really interesting because you can select with software which antenna. You can only have one at a time, but you can have this set up maybe for something with a mag loop, maybe on the BNC socket, to handle LF and HF. You might have a dedicated Yagi for some specific band, or you might have a discone for sort of VHF, UHF. So 3 software selectable antenna ports, and we've also done quite a bit to introduce a better handling of signals down at below 2 megahertz. So we've got this additional filtering, and we've also got what we call HDR mode, which is I always want to say hi. Andy, help me. I've got a mental block.
It's the high dynamic range, isn't it?
High dynamic range. High dynamic range. Yeah. Thank you. And then you can have accurate clocking from a GPS source. It's got a reference clock input, and it comes in a much bigger, chunky, nice black painted steel case. So yeah, I mentioned the high dynamic range below 2 megs. So this is particularly good for LF and VLF use. And the way it works is we have this band framing within SDR Uno, which I'll describe, which again is quite unique to our software, which really emulates these capabilities that you have in a traditional rig. And so what this does is basically when you click on the bands, you get a choice of bands, typically the lower hand bands, the upper hand bands, and we've also got quite a few broadcast bands in there. And then depending on which band you select, and then this is the ham lower band, you might click on 20 meters. And what this does for you is it sets up the decimation and span of the spectrum display to exactly match to the band of interests, rather than having to sort of twiddle around and center the band. So that's proved really popular. And in the case of the RSPDX, there's an additional band which is full of preset bands for below 2 megahertz. The top of the range, the dual tuner RSP Duo, is getting a lot of interest now, as I think people are discovering what you can do with this. The most obvious thing is that as well as seeing any 10 megahertz chunk of spectrum, you can simultaneously visualize 2 megahertz anywhere in 2 different places across the whole spectrum. So this is very powerful. You can also use it on the same frequency, which means it's fantastic for true real-time antenna or propagation comparisons. So that's just the fact you've got two tuners under the same control system, but it's the fact that they share a common USB cable, which means that you've got the opportunity to do diversity demodulation. So that's either spatial or frequency or polarization. And also depending on the frequencies, like down at HF, some of the distances have to be quite big. You can get enhanced signal reception, and you can also do the kind of noise cancelling which isn't possible just with the excellent software noise filters. This is where you actually have, you actually subtract noise from the other signal, which has got your wanted signal and a bit of noise. So just a few pictures on that. We've got, here we see the two simultaneous tuners of the RSP Duo. In this case, the bottom one's on 40 meters, the top one's on the ATC aircraft band VHF. And another thing which is quite fun to do is you can have one of them looking at air traffic control and another one up at 1.09 gigahertz doing the dump 1090 ADSB telemetry information about all the flights and where they're going. And so that's something that we're working on a future plugin so that you don't have to separately launch all the different software needed there. So a couple of, yeah, this is the picture just showing the control panel. In the case of the Duo, you have these two sliders for the two tuners, and you can independently set the gains of each of those inputs, as well as on this rosette here, you can drag the end of the little bar here, which the fact that's halfway between the inner circle, which is equal gain, and the outer circle, which is where you have twice the gain on one of the tuners. This is, it's about 1.5 to 1 ratio here. And then you can actually drag it anywhere through 360 degrees to adjust the relative phase. And it uses a technique called MRC, maximum ratio combination, for signal enhancement. And that's in an automatic mode, which will optimize it for best possible signal. And then for interference rejection, that's best done in manual mode. And it's typically the sort of almost the opposite setting in terms of the phase. And here's just you know, a visual showing, in this case we had 2 different bonito antennas, and we were able to enhance this signal that was coming out of this noise hump here, which was causing problems. On the website, we've got like a comparison chart that helps you to see what extra features you get by going up to the DX and the Duo. And, you know, we can take any questions on that. But I think probably the most exciting thing, I mentioned SDR Uno is all about unlocking the best from these RSPs. And a lot has been going on, from the scanning that we introduced last year to the new stuff that Andy's going to talk about now. And I think after Andy's talk, there's an opportunity to maybe take any questions at that point. So I will pass it over to Andy.
Andy, you on?
I'm here.
Oh, you are there. Good, Grum. Excellent.
Hiya. Well, yeah, hi guys. It's great. As John said, it's great to be here, and it's great that we can talk about all things SDR. So let me. I've got a few more slides to go through with you guys. So let me share that. Okay. So just a quick brief on what we've released in the recent recently. We've new version of SDR Uno, which is 1.4, and we've got a number of things in 1.4 which we've been working on. But the big ticket item really was the plugin system. So we now have a system where we've produced some plugins, but also it's basically a framework for third-party developers to create plugins to interact with SDR Uno, to take the stream from SDR Uno and can also put an audio stream back into SDR Uno, as we do with the DAB plugin. I'll show you in a minute a couple of the plugins that we've launched with 1.4. But it's great to see that we've had some take up from a number of third-party developers already that are keen to add plugins to specifically for things like controllers, which will be a video that I'll be doing very soon, and also things like reading databases of frequencies and displaying annotations of text on the screen. There's lots of things that the plugin system can do, and it's a completely free system that anybody can download, and anybody with a bit of coding knowledge can make it do pretty much whatever they want with SDR Uno. Really, it becomes essentially part of SDR Uno when it's launched. So that's really a big thing for us. What's great about that is that it kind of speeds up some of the development. A lot of people put in requests to us to do various things, and because we've got quite a long roadmap of stuff already, the plugin system enables a kind of a dual track approach. So rather than us being the gateway and the limiter for some of these things, it now frees up a whole raft of applications that can be done that really couldn't be done before. So that's had some really good take up, and that's we're really excited to see how that develops. There's a few other things. You can now start SDR Uno without an RSP connected. You can start with a WAV file, and this is quite useful to be able to. You can record IQ WAV files and share them with other people, and then they can use SDR Uno with those same WAV files. We also have some IQ WAV files that are downloadable from our website. And really the purpose of those was to show you how you can kind of get set up with some of the use cases. So, if you want to do things like slow scan TV, or if you want to get set up with some of the L-band reception and you're not quite sure what sort of signals you should expect to see or what you could achieve with an RSP, these files give you a great starting point. I wish I had them when I was learning about L-band, because I was struggling for a while to get anything that resembled anything usable. So I would have appreciated these files when I was doing that. But it's great that we've got them, and they're freely downloadable from the website. I won't bore you going through all of the different bullet points there, but we do try and cram in as many features and as many updates and fixes as we can to each of these releases. We did slightly change the approach of 1.4. We could have had this release candidate process where we sort of gave access of the software to people earlier than we would normally have done, which I think was a great success. We got a lot of feedback, and the final release of 1.4 had probably the fewest amount of bugs in a full release as we've ever done. So I think we'll probably do more of that. We'll probably tweak the format slightly, but I think we'll do more of that going forward. Let's see, what else have we got here? Yeah, just so there was some fixes and improvements. I think we can keep going. Oops. So I did talk about the plugins. You can see what the plugins we have available on our website, and you can get some more information. The three that we produced to start the ball rolling, as it were, was an audio recorder. So you can now record either WAV files or MP3 files straight from SDR Uno on the VFO that you're tuned to. We included a DAB plugin, so you can listen to DAB and DAB Plus stations, and also a DX cluster plugin. and that really, I don't know if we've got information on that here. Yeah, so the DX cluster plugin basically allows you to tune to a cluster server, and it will continually pull contacts down from the server and then display them on the screen if they're actually obviously in the band that you're looking at the time. Obviously the server will contain contacts for all different bands, and then if you just tune around from band to band, if a contact has been seen within the last, you've got a timer there, you can set the timer, it defaults to 5 minutes. So any contact that's seen within that period of time will be shown up on the screen. So it's and we've put the source code for that actually up on our GitHub site. So anybody that wants to take that and play with that or use that as a starting point for something else is more than welcome to do so. Just an example of a plugin that we haven't had anything to do with. A gentleman called Eric Cottrell has developed, I think he's developed a couple of plugins now, but this one seems to be very popular. It's called Fran, which I think is, you've got it there, frequency annotation. And it will take a database of frequencies like broadcast, I think mainly broadcast frequencies, and it will plot them on the screen. So as you tune around, if there are any of those stations on the screen, then, sorry, under frequency that you're within the sort of spectrum that you're viewing, then it will display that information for you on the screen. And that's been proven to be a very popular plugin. Yeah, so Eric's done some really great work, and I think he's going to continue to do some great plugins going forward. We also, a few revisions back of SDR Uno, integrated a scanner, and this is a fully functioning sort of channelized scanner. You can basically set a start, stop, and a step, and it will very quickly scan that entire region for you. There's a number of presets that we already set up inside SDR Uno for things like the MIL air band, marine band, and literally you just set up your threshold of the level of the signal that you want to capture, and basically press scan, and it will just sit there and scan. I think it does the air band in a couple of seconds, so it's a pretty good scanner. Yeah, it's had a lot of testing, and it's been in there. It's been in Uno for quite a number of versions now, so it's had a few improvements, and it'll continue to get more improvements as well as we go forward. Just to kind of give you a little taste of where Uno is going, this is our roadmap towards 2.0, which 2.0 is cross-platform. So we're going on Mac OS and Linux, as well as obviously continue to develop on Windows. But before we get there, we've got to basically get some very long-standing feature requests in, and things like remote server client. So version 1.42 will have a server that will run on any platform. That could be Raspberry Pi, it could be a Linux or a Mac or Windows box. And then Uno will be the client, and that will be across either a LAN connection or a wide area network connection. We've got some great technology to do low bandwidth system across a wide area network. So we're quite excited to get to that point and bring that to everybody. I'm currently working on 1.41, where we've got the ability to have a generic scheduling function. So you'll be able to set things up like, you'll be able to create profiles. So you might have an L-band profile, you might have an HF profile, and these will be all sorts of things inside Uno, things like setting up virtual audio cables. And so you'll be able to recall those profiles at a given time, and then either you could either just sort of listen to whatever's there, or you could record what's there, or you could pass the data on to another application or use a plugin. So it's a very flexible system, and all that work is underway, and so it's really we've got a very simple IQ recording system inside Uno where you just specify a start and a stop, but this is going to be multiple actions. So you'll be able to set, maybe every Tuesday at 5 o'clock you want to do something, maybe for the next 3 days in a row at 7 a.m. or something you want to do something else. It's going to be a very flexible scheduling system. So that's coming. And then in 1.43, we're going to be improving some of the things I said about the scanner and the memory panel. We're going to have thresholds that are specific to frequencies and have a lot more customization. So you'll be able to customize things like the filter bandwidths that are fixed buttons at the moment. So there'll be a lot more customization that comes in. And then at that point, then the focus is just to get 2.0 down, which is that's obviously cross-platform, a GUI update, so you can have the ability to lock windows together to create a single platform, so a single panel, as it were. And then obviously for non-Windows support, we're going to have another rig control application. It'll probably be something like Hamlib rather than OmniRig, which is currently Windows only. But we're very focused on this roadmap, and this is basically what I do. So that's really it now. It's really it from me. So I don't know if anybody has any, if we have any questions at this point, or I can hand over to Chris.
Yeah, sure. Let me just, no one's putting in the chat window. I'm just going to allow people to unmute themselves. Has anybody got any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself, and you can ask Andy or John. Or the sound of silence.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll talk a bit more, just a few sort of, oh, don't stop the links to OmniRig.
Do you want to go back to
oh, yeah.
Okay, then let me go back to Andy then. Hang on a second. There we go.
Yeah, I probably didn't explain that very well. So when we go over to cross-platform, obviously we'll continue to support OmniRig. We always will do support OmniRig for as long as that application keeps going. But for non-Windows platforms, OmniRig doesn't work on them. So we'll have to, for those platforms, we'll have to have another rig control system. It'll probably be Hamlib, but I won't be putting Hamlib in place of OmniRig. It'll be OmniRig for Windows, as it always has been, and then it'll be Hamlib or something along those lines for the other platforms.
Yes, Richard just asked a question on that one. Thank you for answering that. In fact, I was about to say the same thing. I use OmniRig, and I struggle to get anything else to work but OmniRig with my Yaesu rig. So that's
yeah, we have a great relationship with Alex. We spoke to him just recently because he's got his own framework system. We've talked about how the two, how our plugin and his framework systems can work together. He was telling us about the sort of work that he's doing with OmniRig and with his other software. And so, yeah, no, we'll continue to support OmniRig. It's I know there is a kind of a version 2 that's floating around. He doesn't support it. He doesn't approve of it. They've taken his code without any acknowledgement to him, and he's offered to actually make it. He's offered them some code to make it compatible with OmniRig, his version of OmniRig, which I think that they haven't done. So we continue to support his version. We do not support that other version that's around.
Oh, I think Stuart, do you want to ask your question? I opened the chat window, but you should be able. I think you can unmute yourself, and there you go.
Yeah, a useful facility would be to measure frequency deviation for setting up FM rigs, etc. Is that on your roadmap anywhere, or maybe it's even there?
Sorry, measuring frequency deviation
of an FM signal.
So yeah, I have heard this a couple of times. It's not been. Thank you for reminding me, and hello, Stuart. it's something that we haven't really looked at, but it's on a list I've got of stuff that we ought to talk about at some point. But because, in fact, no one's raised that recently, it's not something that we've ever really thought about. But yes, in theory, the information's there. We can see what the deviation is, and if so, basically, this is like for narrowband FM. Obviously, it's of interest to make sure that people aren't over deviating, and you want to see that it's within certain limits, and it could even flag that. But it's not really something we've talked about, Andy, unless you have with some of the other guys.
No.
But let's take a note of that, Stuart, and give it some thought.
Oh, I mean, you could do it by the Bessel function method, which is hard, right? I just wondered whether it was possible to do it directly. It's part of the sort of, it's part of your sort of technically test equipment sort of package that you have.
Yeah,
for the,
yeah, and there may be something, just the fact, it'll be to do with the way the the bins work and but maybe some of what we're doing on the visual side lends itself to a crude estimate. It may not be quite as accurate as a proper.
Crude is probably good enough for this sort of world.
Yeah, but that's a good one. I've made a note.
So on that sort of subject, how do you go about, obviously you've got a big roadmap there of things that are coming along with the product. How do you go about picking, or how do you get feedback? How do people let you know? How do you choose what it is you want to move what direction you want to go in?
It is really based on sessions like this, particularly obviously normal years we meet people face to face, and you kind of get a kind of intensity of discussion going, and you start to see common themes. And then it really, if the same thing's coming up several times, we don't start to investigate and then look. And it's obviously a trade-off. Some things are almost impossible to do. Some things are, some work, and then we can kind of plan for it. So it's a bit of a kind of iterative process, but anybody who has suggestions for things that we could consider, we have an email address, feedback@sdrplay.com. We don't promise to answer all those emails, but we absolutely read every one of them. So that's probably a good way. I mean, we do participate in the forums as well. We can't again necessarily comment on everything, but if there's a group of people starting to say similar things on a forum, that obviously nudges us to at least look, is this something we can consider? So it's kind of informal, but hopefully we're out there engaging with the community, and able to then, through that process, is what ends up on Andy's roadmap that you saw. It comes from that sort of process. I don't know if you want to add anything, Andy, from your side.
No, I mean, it's pretty much as you described it, John, really. I mean, you like you say, you kind of look at, if you look on the forums, and when we talk to people, like you say, a number of themes come up. Scanning was something that we was asked to do very early on. And I think it was well received when it was finally in. The remote server support has been another very long-standing thing that we just need to kind of get on and do. I mean, we get lots and lots and lots of requests and suggestions to do all sorts of things. I think the great thing now about having the plugin system is that we're not the bottleneck that we were before 1.4 necessarily. There are a number of people now that are that have sort of we've got a number of people. If you come to our plugins site, you'll see some names of people that are there happily writing plugins, and they'll take. I think I saw Eddie McDonald, who was the guy who wrote. He wrote some plugins for these controllers. I don't know if anybody's sort of familiar with these. There's the Shuttle Express controller. It's actually plugged in, so I'm having difficulty holding it up. But there's a couple of different shuttle plug-in controllers, and he's written a plugin to adapt those controllers into SDR Uno. So I'll be doing a video on that very soon. And I think there's another person doing some accessibility type stuff, John, I think. And
Yeah.
but Eric's very very proactive. He's doing a number of different things as well on plugin fronts. But I think it's good. You know, that list of people who will do the plugins will just continue to grow, which is great. You know, those guys do go on the forums as well as us, and so I'm sure they'll see some synergy in what they're doing and some plugins, and hopefully the two things will come together. But it's great that we're not the bottleneck that we have been up until now for a lot of this stuff.
You mentioned videos as well. I know you've got a lot of things on YouTube. I know there's a very active Facebook group. How much time? I know you got Mike. I think he's still with you. That does a lot of the support work around software.
There's a number of us that have been doing videos. Sometimes we do them all together, which has been quite interesting. We've got Mike Ladd, who's in the States. He does a number of the videos specifically for like use cases and ham radio uses. We've got a guy called Steve, he's a Brit, but he's in the States. He does. He's been doing a lot of videos recently on things like troubleshooting, how to. In fact, I think he did another one yesterday, John. If that's right.
Yes, on just the things that can occasionally go wrong when you're installing new software, and it's really a kind of troubleshooting video. So it covers just about everything that could ever go wrong. So that's quite good. So yeah, we'll chip in and have our strengths and weaknesses and try and complement each other. But in fact, I was going to come on and say a bit more about some of the resources that are out there to help support products. And but underlying it all is very much the community. Particularly the independent Facebook group is now over 14,000 people, and given that there's probably 40% of the population would never go anywhere near Facebook, it shows the level of support and interest. We've also got a groups.io forum and another more sort of traditional forum, and each has its different pros and cons. The Facebook group's great for real-time, maximum number of comments and very quick reactions and answers, but it's not so good as a resource if you kind of know that someone must have been talking about this on Facebook. Trying to go back and find stuff with the search function can be a bit frustrating, whereas the more formal forum, it's easier to find stuff.
So
Cool.
I have another question, if I may ask it.
Yeah.
So you're going to do a server at some stage. Will you be doing, or have you already done, and I haven't noticed it, a sort of system like your major competitors got, where all the users can pool their receivers so that third parties can listen to them? Well, one of the uses we have in the club is that we have a shared SDR sitting at the club, and then we have a 10-meter net, and then people on the edges of the net can just listen at the club and hear everything instead of if they can't hear it themselves. And I just wondered whether you were going to make that sort of thing available on your platform.
I think you're talking something about like Open WebRx, something like that.
Well, yeah, like the SDR Sharp has got.
Not sure. You mean the?
So it's got a community of receivers, and you can connect into the receiver you want to connect to and use it as if it was at home. I think maybe that's the same thing. There are lots of these packages around.
We have a TCP server already.
Right. But you need the sharing infrastructure so that you don't have to configure all of your users. Your users just go up to a site that
like a web SDR type.
Yeah.
But multiple to the same one, or Is that important, Stuart? That, but obviously one person
I'm a
has
bit confused.
control.
So the server that we produce is not going to be a one-to-many. It's going to be a one-to-one.
Right, so there's your competitor has got a one-to-many system, and it's really useful for club nets and also for club sharing, right? So you put one receiver at a good site, and then you can all listen on that receiver.
Okay, so that's like OpenWebRx, I guess.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know. I've not met that one.
Oh.
The one we've been using is SDR Sharp, which is, as I say, a competitor's product.
Yeah.
So OpenWebRx allows you to the server defines the center frequency and the amount of spectrum you see.
Yep.
But then anybody can then sign up to that.
Yeah, that's it.
And then choose any part of that spectrum. So that already exists. OpenWebRx already works and does that.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I did a video. I've done a video on that, John, didn't I? Yeah. If you search on our YouTube channel, you'll find a video on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I think I take you through the configuration of it and the setup of it.
Yeah, that's a really useful sort of club resource, right? Because, as I say, you can have one low noise receiver that you share. And as I say, we've been using it as a half repeater for extending the size of our nets.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, OpenWebRx is pretty much, I think, got that functionality.
Okay.
And then, of course, there are other alternatives like SDR Console is supporting all our RSPs. Again, that's one-to-one. But you know,
no, one-to-many is kind of important in this application because, well, particularly for the net, where, as I say, you have one centrally placed receiver that everyone can transmit into, and then a much larger number of the club members can take part in the net.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you. Shall I just crack on with finish off the formal?
Go ahead, John. Yeah, why not? Yeah.
That may stimulate a few more questions as we go. So I'm going to share. Oh, if you could just get the screen.
Oh, sorry. Right. Try again now. Sorry, I turned off the sharing option.
Okay, and then I'll try and get the right screen this time. No. Can you all see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So just a few comments that, and particularly if anyone out there is trying to attract new members into the ham radio hobby, then often it can be a way in through other peripheral sort of uses of radio that could be attractive. And I was going to just go through one or two examples that sort of sit on the side and for which the RSPs are proving very popular. And you can read for yourself the, even across industrial and various sort of educational scientific areas, there's a lot going on. In fact, we've been sponsoring the University of Rome La Sapienza to write a course centered around satellite reception. So it's actually a practical course for students who are perhaps learning adjacent technologies like aerospace technology and have an interest in radio. It's a great way using an SDR to get into that, and it's a very practical course involving an Arduino, making a little transmitter, and then using SDR Uno to receive it, and as you do decoding and the whole thing. So that's sort of thing that's hopefully will help to stimulate an interest in radio in another generation. So that's all going on. And, I think Chris himself has done quite a bit in the club there to promote use of pan adapters. And with all the main transceivers, we've talked already quite a bit about OmniRig. And again, there's a lot of resources on our website and videos to help you navigate through the various configurations needed to ensure that you don't damage the radio, the RSP, And people often ask the question, well, why don't you put great big rugged protection in the RSP? And the problem is really that if it was only an HF SDR, then we could probably go a lot further. But as you get up into VHF, UHF, and into microwaves, then any attempt to add, more beefy protection up front would also have significant performance issues at those high frequencies. So that's the background, and it's not just us. You'll find all SDR receivers need to be treated with respect. We say, 10 milliwatts for short periods or a milliwatt continuously, 0 dBm, really is what you need to make sure your system is limited to. But the great thing is with SDR Uno having the calibrated RF level, you can start out with a suspect transmitter that you think's okay, and start just down at a few watts, and don't crank it up, and don't turn the linear on until you've absolutely convinced yourself that you're keeping the RF levels to a safe level. So there's lots about that, and various other accessories, TR switches and things that can be bought for all the popular transceivers. I think Andy mentioned in Marsat is great fun to just see all the messaging that goes on at sea and other places where the internet isn't quite so prolific or reliable. And one of our resellers, SDR Kits, has specialized in these little L-band patch antennas, which are really good for picking up satellite signals. Oops. Let's just share the screen again. Oh. I think there's a rogue slide in there or something. No. Just going back to the beginning. Seem to have a problem. I'm going to have to just have this reduced view here. Hopefully you can still see that. That's just a graphic showing pan adapter. There are these other fantastic images that you can pick up as in real time. These are geostationary operational environmental satellites, which are taking these very, very high resolution pictures of the Earth. And these are, 10 of, I forget how many million pixels, but that you can blow this up and see hurricanes, and even like where there's fires burning, you can see smoke. Some really, really impressive weather effects and so on. It's just something that, in conjunction with software from USA Satcom, you can decode the software and then do image enhancement and post-processing to get some very impressive pictures. So these are all things on the side of ham radio that actually can be very attractive to play with. So we talked about the YouTube channel, and also we have this applications and support catalog, which again is a searchable resource. You can search by keywords, and there's several hundred video links, including some third-party links, documents, and so on. And so it's a really powerful resource on all the sorts of things you can do with an RSP. We have our own Facebook news page, so that's where you get to hear about upcoming releases and news of third parties, new plugins, that kind of thing. We've already talked about the forums. Again, we'll make these slides available via Chris, and you know, with the links to the various forums out there. One of the things we've recently introduced is quite an interactive technical help system, which includes our ticket system, so you can always get one-to-one support. But initially, you just go to the help page, which is sdrplay.com/help, click on technical help, and then just put in your particular RSP, your operating system, and software that you're using, and then you will be guided into you know, some FAQs, and that can go down another level in terms of, you know, the common things, and you might just find, oh yeah, that's my problem, and you may just get instant help. We mentioned Steve's new video from yesterday, the SDR, you know, FAQ installation. That's a nice video there. Going on down a level, you know, common questions that we get, but you know, if that doesn't answer it, you can still raise a ticket. And we'll support anybody independent of where they got their RSP. We draw the line at some of these RSP1 clones or fake RSP1As that might be out there. You probably won't get much support from us should you have one of those. But wherever you buy from one of the many resellers and channel partners on the distributors page, or whether you purchase directly from us, we'll make sure that we do our best to try and support what you're trying to do. So that was really just the last few things I wanted to say, but hopefully that's given people time to have another think about any questions.
So, John, we do have some questions. So Paul's got a question about satellites. Paul, do you want to ask your question? They should be able to unmute.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we able to set an offset so that we can view the actual frequency when we're, say, using an LNB?
Andy, do you want to?
Yeah, no, not at the moment. So that's something that we're going adding in. But there is a facility for offset support in Uno, but it won't go up to the, you know, whatever gigahertz you need, tens of gigahertz. It's really just for less than 2 gigahertz support. But we will be adding in the satellite support and also the tracking as well.
Oh, that'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
At the moment, I think, you know, people are using SDR console to some degree for some of that with the RSPs.
Thanks for the question, Paul. We've got another question from Adrian. Adrian, do you want to go ahead? If you can unmute, there you go.
Just wondering what sort of an antenna is suggested as a recommended antenna, for portable use. I go overseas twice a year, and I purchased the RSP1, which arrived today. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay, good. So yeah. What frequencies are you most interested in, Adrian?
Definitely well and truly below 2 gig. But obviously, a HF antenna is what I'm asking for, is probably not going to be an option. But mainly VHF, UHF.
Yeah, I mean, for HF, the active magnetic loops, I mean, they cost probably more than the RSP in some cases, but those are, I mean, there's, you know, meter diameter loops, but you can even...
I'm not going to 2 kilogram with it.
Or the mega loop is actually a wire that you can construct, you know, when you get where you're going. And in fact, there's some videos from Oxford Shortwave of him on balconies all around the world with his RSPs and one of these Bonito mega loop antennas. Oh, look, Andy's waving one.
It's a mini whip. Sometimes these are pretty good. It depends. The trouble is, I have I've not had very much luck with antennas. Probably the best thing I have is I don't know if you probably can't see it, but it's a loop there. That's about the best thing I have, and I have it indoors. I've got a G5RV up and over my roof. Won't beat that.
Yeah, I think the Wellbrooks and the Bonito magnetic loops are very, very impressive. At a low, you don't have to get them high up. I mean, even indoors they'll do some good, but when you're out and about, that's, I mean, the traditional way of doing it was, you know, a stone, some string, and get a wire up over some trees. Are you talking about being static, Adrian, wherever you want to go with your RSP?
Yeah, or a hotel balcony or something.
Sorry?
From a hotel balcony or something.
Hotel
like
balcony. So, yeah, probably an active magnetic loop like the mega loop, where you just construct it. If you go on YouTube and just search for Oxford shortwave and loop antenna, you'll find these demos, and they're pretty good.
This is what I use for VHF and UHF. Just a little 2 meter antenna. It works fine.
Yeah.
So, and it's magnetic, so it'll sort of, you know, attach to something.
Yeah. Yeah, whip antennas will get you your line of sight, and again, if you're at a good high up location, you know, you'll be able to pull in 2 meters repeaters and stations from you know.
I mean, I've actually used that on Dump 1090 as well, up at a gigahertz. It works.
So where have you used it, Adrian?
Sorry, Adrian?
Yeah, where did you say you've used it?
Yeah, so I've used these little 2 meter antennas for doing things like Dump 1090, you know, the ADSB reception.
Yeah, I'm doing that also up at here at home and up at the local aero park.
Yeah. And I made my own antenna as well, which is, I just got like sections of coax.
Oh, yeah.
About that long, about 8 of them.
Yeah.
And then you dovetail them. So the center of one connects to the outer of the other.
I've tried making one of those, but never had much success.
Yeah, well, I made one, stuck it in a bit of tube so I can put it outside, and I mean, I'm in, just to give you an idea, I'm in Kent, and I can see with that thing hanging on my guttering outside, I can see planes up at Hull.
Okay.
So you know, you get a few hundred miles range easily.
The best antenna that I've built for 1090 is one that is a Coke can cut it to, I think it was 67 millimeters or something like that, with the equivalent element as well sticking out the end of it, and that from the East Midlands Airport, where the aero park is, we were getting well and truly into France from there.
That's good.
Good.
And it's the best antenna I've built yet. But I was actually going to ask about it one for game. I might give that coax one another go.
Yeah. I think well, we're looking at some innovative, futuristic designs around the old ferrite rod technology, because that's sort of been a bit neglected, I think, ever since you know, medium wave became less you know, popular, and having a wideband antenna somehow using ferrite technology would be a bit of a holy grail. So we're looking at some ideas on that. Nothing to announce yet, but for right now, I think active loops for HF are the best bet. But if you're somewhere with trees and, you know, just lengths of wire slung up over trees, they'll give you, you know, great reception across a huge range of frequencies. right up into VHF. Probably not dump 1090 particularly good, but
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Just going to mute you because you've got a bit of background noise there. Anybody else got any questions or comments for Andy or John?
any other suggestions for things we ought? We've picked up some good ones already. Thank you very much. But
I'd actually quite like to be where Richard is. That's quite picturesque there.
I'm not sure if Richard's trying to talk or whether he's. I think everyone can mute themselves.
Oh yeah, Richard's got this fantastic panorama. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else got any other questions or comments or feedback or
yeah, feedback, because are we covering the sort of thing that's interesting, or was this a bit bit tame, or I don't know? Were you looking for more technical?
I thought it was good.
Or just let us know.
Is there a tutorial on getting it to work with GNU Radio?
We don't have a video.
We have a.
Oh, John, we have a video
that we've got a little video that shows setting it up using our SD card image on a Raspberry Pi, literally just how to launch it, and then it obviously relies on the source blocks that exist.
I thought you did the Windows version, John. With the zip file. Downloading the zip file. I'm sure.
Yeah. That's all. Oh, is that? No, I used Windows to download the SD card that then went into the Raspberry Pi. I think.
It's worth searching. I think it's worth searching on our YouTube channel.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, or the apps catalog, even just.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You'd probably get quite a few takers for a lecture on that subject.
Yes, in fact, we did participate in one of the. Were you there, Stuart? The RSGB did something at Milton Keynes a couple of years ago with.
Yeah, we did it with those cheap little tiny SDRs.
That's right, but at the very end, they let us in just because I think at that
point
I
remember,
we'd only just proved the principle,
right?
And we just showed, look, you can, it will actually work with an RSP1A, and then soon after that we went on to create the SD card image. That's, in fact, it works with all three SDRs. Current.
What the heck?
All right.
And the other thing, Stuart, very soon we'll have this university material, which is freely available. I mean, it's designed for the educational community, but we can share with you.
Thank you.
The PowerPoints that actually show you from scratch how to get up and running with an RSP1A on GNU Radio.
Perfect. That's exactly what I want. I'll give you a university address if you need it.
Okay, that's good. Send me a separate.
Yes.
And then I'll follow up from that.
Thank you.
In fact, John has forgotten. He did do a video for GNU Radio on Windows, and it is on our YouTube channel.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, it's coming back slow.
It basically shows you how to download it, how to get it up and running. I think we provided an example and how to compile it and run it. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much for a most interesting talk.
Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else got any cracks? There's a few things in the chat window. I'm not sure if they're questions or just things people want to put in the chat window. But did you want to come in at all, or did you just put something in the chat window there, or not? No. Okay, fine. Not to worry. Okay, just to point out, so that's all. Okay. Anybody else got anything else before we finish up? No. Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, hang on a minute. We've got,
here we are.
Richard's holding something up, but I'm not sure. Are you trying to come in, Richard? Just let me see if I can unmute you. I've unmuted you now, if that helps.
Yeah, it's SDR1 play.
Yeah.
Oh, you got one. Okay.
Yeah.
You got the
it works
RSP
with
one.
it. Yeah, works with the IC7300 as a PAN adapter perfectly.
Oh, thanks, Richard. That's good.
Actually, far better to see a big waterfall display than that little one. Having to put varifocals on to go and see it. Yeah, well done. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that's, unless anybody else, his last chance to ask Andy, the guy that writes the software, or John, that, you know, both guys have done a huge amount of work with this platform. Here's your opportunity to ask the question. Have you got anything else? It's your last chance. Okay, well, I think in that case, we'll thank you both very, very much for your time. That's been an excellent presentation, and thank you very much for your time. And we'll look out for the new versions of things coming out in the future. Looking forward to that. So thank you, guys, and wish you all the best.
Well, thanks to all of you.
Yeah,
really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks very much. You're very, very interesting.
Okay. Cheers then.
Thanks a lot. And I can see you guys giving a bit of a virtual. It's difficult when you got people on mute, but they're giving a bit of a virtual clap. So there you go.
Okay.
Hello, Dave M0WID has left the meeting.
And I'll close it down there. Thanks a lot, guys. See you soon.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.